Now, the SQL Server temporary tables are special types of tables that allow you to store and process intermediate results. So these tables are stored in a temp DB and are automatically deleted whenever they are no longer needed. So temporary tables can be useful for complex queries, rather store procedures and during the data transformation process as well. So there are mainly two types of temporary tables in SQL Server. We've got the local temporary tables. So these are the tables that are visible only to the connection that creates them and are deleted when the connection is closed. They are prefixed with a single hash symbol. And then you've got a global temporal tables. So these are tables that are visible only to the connections and are deleted to all the connections rather than deleted when the last connection used is then closed. So they are prefixed with a double hash symbol. All right. Now, just imagine that you are working maybe on a big puzzle in your living room, but you don't have enough space to sort out all the pieces. So you grab a couple of trays to help you to organize. So you use one tray for maybe sky pieces and another for tree pieces. So these trays are like temporary tables in SQL Server. So they are tools that you use uh, to help you sort and manage pieces or data while you work on putting the puzzle together or processing information in the database in our case. So once the puzzle is complete or your task is done, then you no longer need those trays, which is temporary tables, and they can be put away, so they get deleted automatically. Now, a local temporary table is like having a tray for a puzzle pieces that only you can use. So if you're working on a puzzle by yourself in your room, you can sort pieces into this tray, move them around, and no one else can actually see or touch these pieces. It's private to you. So when you leave them, when you leave the room or the end of your database session, in our case, the tray and its pieces are cleaned up and put away automatically. For example, you decide to sort out maybe the blue pieces, uh, which can be a subset of data into this tray, and then you work with them fitting pieces together or analyzing data in our case. And once you're done, then you no longer need the tray, so it disappears, leaving no mess behind. And then when it comes to global temporary tables, we've got a shared tray. Now imagine that a global temporary table is like a large tray that anyone coming into the room can actually use. Right? So if you're working on a puzzle with friends, or you might have a tray where you are collecting all the edge pieces, and then you can put the pieces into it, and your friends can take pieces out and just to work on the border of the puzzle. So this tray is shared amongst you. So in database terms, if you create a global temporal table to hold some data, anyone else connected to the database can actually see and use that data too. So once everyone is done and leaves the database or leaves the room, in our analogy, then the last connection is actually closed. The tray is automatically cleaned up. So why use temporary table at the first place? Using temporary tables is like just going back to our analogy again, is making your puzzle solving or data processing in our database a context. So it's easier by organizing data into manageable chunks that they will help you. So you organize data just like trays can help you to sort out pieces by color, by edge. Temporary tables can help you to organize data for analysis, right? So you improve performance also. So instead of searching through the whole box for sky pieces every time, or querying a large database, you can only use the pieces in the tray, right? So you can use the data that is temporary table, which is much faster. You share data temporary. So with a global temporary table, you can share certain data available to others without adding it to the main puzzle box or the permanent tables in a database. So temporary table in SQL Server are like trays for your puzzle pieces. They make your task of solving the puzzle or analyzing data more manageable by just providing a way to organize and share pieces temporarily. So once the task is complete, they are no longer needed and they're automatically cleaned away. All right, so let's do some examples. Suppose you're working with database that stores orders and you want to analyze orders that is placed within the last month, but only for a specific set of products. So instead of running a complex query multiple times, you can use a temporary table just to add and hold relevant data that you actually need. All right, let's see if we can do an example. So I'm going to add a new query here. Then we're going to create a table. Create table. Let's call it a. So we're going to use a hash symbol to show that this is a local temporary table, and then we can just call it recent orders. And then we're going to have the order ID, which is the integer, and then we're going to have the product ID, which is the integer as well, and then we're going to have the order date, which is going to be the date, and then finally we're going to have the quantity, which is also the integer. And then then we want to insert data into a temporary table, assuming that we have orders table with the order ID, product ID, and order date. Okay, so I'm just gonna push this down so that we can create that table that we actually need. So, and then we're gonna insert some data into the table. So let's create a table. I'm gonna call it new orders. Okay, I'm just going because we already have another table, so we're gonna create a new table called new orders, and then this table is gonna have the order ID. Of course, the order ID is gonna have, it is the integer. It's also a primary key. Let's just make it an identity column so that we don't have to insert it. And then we can have the product ID, and which is the integer, and then we can have the order date, which is the date, and then let's have the quantity, which is gonna be the integer. Okay, so this looks good, and then we can insert data into the table. So now let's insert the data into this table. So we're gonna insert into new orders. Always leave out the T. It's probably my keyboard. I think maybe some buttons are not typing whenever I type something. So in new orders, so we insert into new orders, and then we're gonna insert the product ID. Let me just fix this. We need to type product ID. Okay, so we fix this. We're gonna insert the product ID, and then we're gonna insert the order date, and then finally the quantity. And then we're gonna have the values, of course. So the values will be, let's say we've got a 101 as a product ID, 101, And then assuming this was done last year, these orders, so we can put a date of 2023 01 15, and then there was 2 quantities. Let's just copy this, and then this one, let's say 02 10, and then this one, let's say, is for order 102, and then there was 1 quantity, and then let's insert a couple of them. So this one will be, let's say, 02 20, and then maybe there was 5 orders. Maybe let's do product ID 103, and then let's do another one 104. So this one, maybe let's make it 02 25, 01 25, and then maybe there's 3 quantities. All right, maybe we can add the last one. Need a comma there, so we can actually add the last one, which is 1 is let's, okay, 101 is fine, and then let's say 02 25, 02 25, and then maybe there was 4 quantities. All right, so that's basically our, so let's just select all from, just to confirm the data insertion from orders, new orders, and then what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna comment out this one for now so that it doesn't run, and then we can just look what we have. All right, so here's the orders, we've inserted them. Now on the recent orders table, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna, since I have these, I'm gonna just go ahead and comment the upper line out, and then recomment this one in. Now, so we've got, so we're going to insert into recent orders the order ID, the product ID, and the order date, and the quantity as well. So the order date, and then the quantity. Okay, I wrote the quantity like that. It's fine though. Okay, maybe let's fix it. We can just say quantity. Let's copy that and just make sure that we've got something correct here. And then now we're gonna select order ID, order ID, order ID. It's actually order ID with a small d. We're gonna select a product ID, and then we're gonna select order date, and then we're gonna select the quantity. We select this from where? We select it from new orders. So we're going to select it from new new orders, from the table called new orders, which is this one that we created here. Okay, I'm missing something here. Okay, from new orders. Okay, and then we're gonna put our where clause. We're gonna say where the order ID, the order date rather, is greater or is equals to, then we can just use this option, this function of date at. It's actually a built-in function, and then we check the month, take the month minus 1, and then we can get date. So basically the get date function is to get today's dates. So these are the orders from last month. And product ID in 101, 102, and 103. So we are actually specific on the products that we want to look at. All right. So now this command, it selects the orders from last month for the product. So I used 2023 there. I wanted to, okay, probably I'm gonna truncate the table and then just reinsert the data, because otherwise this is not gonna work. So it selects the orders from last month to the products with product ID 102, 101, 102, and 103, and insert them in recent orders. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna do this. Actually, I don't have. I can actually copy this and then just paste there and uncomment, and then I'm just gonna make the dates 2024. So I used the last year's date. 24, 24, and then 24, and then 24, and then 24. Okay, we don't have to truncate the table. Okay, so we inserted the data now of 2024. Now let's go back. Okay, so and then I'm gonna just execute this now. So it insert, you can see that there's 3 rows that were actually inserted. Now what we can do, we can, after inserting that, then we can actually comment it out, and then we can select product ID, and then we want to count all as total orders. Then we're gonna sum the quantity as total quantity. And then we want to do this we're selecting from the recent. Remember now, on recent orders we have some rows. It says our temporary table, and then we're just gonna group by the product ID. Is it creating again? Oh, sorry. I forgot to comment this one out. So I'm like, why is it creating again? Okay, so we can now, after we've inserted data, we performed analysis, right? This is part of analysis, whereby like we counting orders per product. So how many products are there on product ID 101? So there was one product, and then the total quantity was 4. And how many orders were there on 102? And then the total orders was 1, so it's actually 1 on each. Okay, on the recent dates, meaning on the last month, not the other months. Remember, there is 2023. So because now, if we go and select um, all from new orders, you will see that there's a lot of orders from 2023. Select all from new orders. All right, so we select this, and then you can actually see that there's a lot of orders from 2023, but we only checking the ones for last month. We inserting temporary data, right, into the table named recent orders from another table which is called new orders. So this operation is just specifically designed to filter. That's what we're doing. We're filtering and transferring a subset of data based on certain criteria. So this condition, it filters the data that we're selecting, focusing on orders that were made last month. It uses the date add function. It's a built-in function. We're still going to talk about dates to subtract 1 month. So basically what we're doing there, we're subtracting 1 month from today's date. Get date, this function here, get date, it will get today's date. So we're subtracting 1 month from today. All right. Meaning you're only interested in orders from a recent period. Remember, we have orders from 2023 as well, but we only interested in recent orders and in product 101, 102, and 103. So this just narrows down the selection for orders basically that involve specific products that is identified by product ID 101, 102, and 103. And essentially, we're saying I only want recent orders, and only if they are these particular products. All right. So let me just explain this further so that you can grasp what we're talking about here. So imagine that you are a teacher. Let's have an analogy. You're a teacher, you've been collecting different assignments and projects from your students over a semester. So now you decide to organize and showcase of the recent work, but only you want to include projects related to specific topics. Let's say topics 101, 102, and 103 submitted in the last month. So the new orders table is like a full collection of assignments and projects that you've received. So creating and inserting into hashtag recent orders, it's like preparing a special folder, or we call recent orders, where you put copies of all the projects that fit your criteria. And then the select statement with the where a clause is going to go through all the submissions, picking out the recent ones out of the topic 101, 102, and 103. All right, and then placing them into a special folder. So at the end, the hash recent orders contains exactly what you need for to showcase, except the recent projects on those specific topic, making it easier for you to organize and present them. So this SQL operation is a powerful way to organize and manage data, especially when you're dealing with a large databases, by allowing you to focus and manipulate only the data that meets your specific criteria.